Hello, my name is Jordan Bell, and for our group project, we had to discuss domestic space and Islam. So, in Islam, the home isn't just seen as a private place, it's actually considered a sacred place that plays a central role in a Muslim spiritual life. It's where daily prayers can be performed, where children learn their values from their parents, and where the atmosphere should really reflect Islamic teachings like modesty, cleanliness, and peace. And you'll often find that families that take care of and keep the space tidy and quiet, especially during prayer times, just like shoes are removed before entering the mosque, and they're also taken off at the door in any Muslim homes to show respect and just to maintain the cleanliness of the house. And so, as you can see, the photo on the left shows a mother and daughter preparing to pray together. And you can see how prayer is not just a personal practice, it's something that is passed on and just shared into a daily routines at the home with your family. And on the right is an example of Islamic calligraphy. And the statement says, There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. This kind of artwork is really common in Muslim homes, and it's not really seen as decoration. It actually brings more of it's more of just a constant reminder of the faith into everyday life. And, they can just look at it right on their walls. And what's really interesting is that in the Quran, the Kaaba is referred to as Bait, which means house. So God's sacred sanctuary in Mecca is literally called the house of God. The same word is used for ordinary homes too, showing just how the home is meant to reflect the same sense of respect and sanctity of, just on a smaller scale. And then another key part of Islamic teachings around the home is the emphasis on privacy and respect. In the Quran, it even gives direct instructions saying, "Do not enter the houses other than your own, unless you seek permission and greet those inside." This isn't just about good manners, it's a moral guideline meant to protect their dignity and boundaries. In Islamic tradition, the home is seen as a place of safety, especially for women and children, and that's why asking permission before entering and offering greetings is taken so seriously. It shows respect for the sacredness of someone else's space. And there's also a concept of maharm, I believe is how you pronounce it, which refers to close relatives, people you're not allowed to marry, like your siblings, parents, or children. Within this family circle, the modesty rules are a little bit more relaxed. And because of that, many homes are physically designed to reflect those boundaries. In traditional Muslim households, there's usually a clear division between areas meant for guests, especially unrelated male guests, and more private family living space. The floor plan at the bottom is a great example. You can see the guest room, I believe it's referred to as the Mahajilis, I believe, and is placed near the entrance while the family quarters are set deeper in the house. And this way, this layout helps maintain the privacy and modesty of those living inside while showing hospitality at the same time. And what's cool about that is that even though the architecture styles differ from place to place, the pattern shows up over and over again. The space itself becomes a way to live out their religious values. So whether, it's a design of their home or behavior of the guest, that Islam teaches that respect for boundaries and spiritual dignity should be at the center of domestic life. And to wrap everything up, overall, the Muslim home isn't just about comfort or function. It's a space where faith is lived out, values are taught, and daily life is shaped by religious meaning. And while these core principles remain consistent, the way they're expressed can look very different depending on cultural and regional influences. So next, you're just going to hear about how these traditions vary across different Muslim communities around the world and how cultural shapes the way these religious values show up in real homes.
Slide is going to be discussing how a domestic space in the Islamic culture is going to reflect the varieties of cultural understandings and objects among different Muslim communities. While core Islamic principles like prayer and reverence for the Quran are shared across the religion, the way these values are going to be expressed at home can look very different depending on the cultural context. As a group, we're going to be highlighting how Islamic domestic space varies across Muslim communities. Islam is going to acknowledge and even celebrate diversity. In the surah, 49:13 within the Quran, it says, O humankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes, that you may know one another. Indeed, the noblest of you in sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. This verse has set the tone for how Muslims are going to be able to adapt to shared values and into unique settings. It's stating a goal of righteousness rather than uniformity. To support that, here's another quote from a Surah 7:199 in the Quran. Muslims are advised to show forgiveness, enjoin what is good, and turn away from foolishness. This quote is going to be stated at the top of the slide, and it's going to really encourage a coexistence between the cultural practices as long as there's no conflicting Islamic principles or commandments. As a group, we've selected 3 branches of Islam to focus on in this cultural variation and comparison. We have the first one, the Sunni, which is specifically going to be talked about in North Africa. We have the Shia, which we're going to focus on Iran, and Sufism, which is seen in Southeastern Asian countries, such as Indonesia, which we'll be discussing. While the Sunni and the Shia are going to be the prominent branches of Islam, Sufism is recognized and, again, appreciated among the Islamic culture. Beginning with Sunni, specifically majority of regions within North Africa, their domestic spaces often are going to be shared around a courtyard. These courtyards are going to be private but communal. They're going to allow women and extended families to gather and pray. We're going to see things like prayer rugs, framed verses of the Quran, or even just decor that is really going to reflect a focus on this idea of spiritual tranquility. Hospitality is also going to be pretty prominent in these spaces. They're going to be arranged for guests to be a part of Islamic ethics, and these guests are going to be honored in a way as if it's a religious act. Now, in Iran, in Shia households, the domestic space is going to include shrines or potentially symbolic altars dedicated to the family of the Prophet. While all Muslims are going to revere to that Prophet's family, Shia Muslims specifically are going to integrate this into the devotion in their everyday life. Their homes might have flags from the day of Ashura, and there aren't going to be any signs of idolatry, but rather more of an expression of grief, which is going to be a key concept in this Shia theology. Their domestic spaces are going to be more of a blend between mourning and resistance with sacred memory. And finally, we're going to look at the Indonesian branch of the Islamic culture and see how it really emphasizes their inner spirituality. And this is going to appear through music, maybe an artistic expression within inside the home. You might see drums, incense, or just hangings with poetry by other Sufi masters. And this domestic space is really going to become a place of spiritual remembrance of God. And it's going to be done in a communal setting. It's going to be done with your family members, your neighbors, and it's going to be more of an emotional, repetitive practice than we see in the other 2 branches. So while prayer and reverence for the Quran is going to remain a universal process within the domestic space, that domestic space can become an individual's canvas for cultural interpretation, whether we see that courtyard in the northern African countries, or a shrine within Iran, or poetic calligraphy hung on the wall in Indonesia. It's going to reflect how Islam is going to be able to adapt to different cultures while staying with its roots from its amendments. Islamic diversity is not going to weaken the religion, but rather reveal the richness of its global community.
Hello. So today I'd like to talk about some key elements of daily life and traditional Muslim household, specifically how religion values shape family roles, modesty, household items, and even which animals are allowed inside the home. So we can start with gender. Um, in Islam, men and women are considered equal in the eyes of God. However, they are seen having different but complementary roles. So, a husband is expected to provide for his family financially, working outside of the home, and in return, the wife, whether she has wealth or not, is entitled to full support from her husband. And her main responsibility is the management of the home and family life. Um, and so this division is not seen as a form of inequality, but more like a balance that ensures that everyone contributes to the household in meaningful ways. And then next we can talk about modesty and dress code. So women are instructed to guard their modesty and avoid displaying their physical beauty or ornamentation in public, and only what's naturally seen through modest behavior, like the hands or the face, can be visible outside of the home. But within the household, women may be seen unveiled and in more relaxed clothing by certain people, like her husband, close relatives, female servants, older male servants, and young children who aren't aware of sexual matters. And then when it comes to decorations, we can talk about what's allowed in the home. So the Quran strictly prohibits alcohol, and so it's very rare to find any sort of storage or serving equipment in the home. And when it comes to actual artwork, two-dimensional representation like paintings and drawing and photos are generally accepted as long as they're respectful and don't encourage idolatry. Statues, however, are strongly discouraged, and this is because statues can be seen as promoting idolatry, which is forbidden in Islam. And next, children's toys are an exception to the rule on the representation, and this is only because Muhammad approved of children playing with dolls and animal-shaped toys. Next, I would like to talk about wealth and luxury items. So, Islam as a whole encourages modesty in not just in the dress code for women, but also in lifestyle. So, both women and men are forbidden from using utensils made out of gold or silver, and household fabrics like pure silk are also off limits, except for women who are allowed to wear silk clothing and own gold or silver jewelry. For men, wearing or using these materials is considered excessive and a display of worldly luxury, which goes against Islamic values. And instead, Islamic economics promotes the idea that precious metals like gold and silver should circulate as currency and not be hoarded. And then finally, I would like to talk about animals that are allowed in the household. So dogs are usually not kept inside of the home, and this is mainly because dog saliva is seen as ritually impure in Islamic law. And so since dogs tend to lick people and objects, this could make a home be seen as unclean. However, keeping working dogs outside of the home for hoarding or protection is allowed. And on the other hand, cats are considered clean and are often welcomed as pets. That said, black cats are sometimes viewed negatively as they are associated with satanic symbolism in some Muslim cultures. But overall, cats are far more favorable than dogs when it comes to household pets.